We looked ahead to phase 2 of the negotiations with David Scullion, the deputy editor at Brexit Central, which presents a positive vision of Britain after Brexit, and John Edward, who was the spokesperson for the Scottish Remain campaign in last year's EU referendum. David Scullion, can the UK secure a bespoke deal with the EU?
Absolutely, the UK can get a bespoke deal with the EU. And Michel Barnier, the EU's chief negotiator, his chief of staff was in London today, one of his aides, and he said that we absolutely will get a bespoke deal and that it's a simple thing when you compare it to some of the great things man has achieved. But the real question is, what kind of deal will we get? So any deal that the EU makes with other countries, any free trade agreement, will be bespoke. But we really need a deal where we're outside the customs union, we're outside the single market, where we recognise each other's regulations, but we're allowed to diverge from them.
John Edward, is a bespoke deal realistic?
Yes, it's going to have to be a bespoke deal because it's a unique circumstance. You've never had a country of our scale and reach leaving the EU before and therefore meeting, as David said, the conditions before, but then walking away from them. So it's doable. My only big question would really be, why have we waited 500 days since the vote and almost 400 days since the Article 50 letter to start having a discussion in Cabinet about it?
David, why do you think we've waited so long?
Well, I think it is really welcome that the Cabinet has finally met to try and discuss what they want from the final deal. And it's just, there are a lot of remainders in Cabinet and there are some leavers in Cabinet, and that's just really why they haven't got to this period at the moment. But,
does that concern you at all, though, that it's taken so long?
I think it's of some concern. It's really welcome that they finally met to discuss it. But it really does seem like the Boris Johnson and the Michael Gove vision of a post-Brexit future where we aren't aligned, but we recognise each other's regulations and laws has won out. And that's the thing that Theresa May was saying today in the Commons. She was saying, we need to be outside the single market, we need to be outside the customs union, so that we can strike trade deals of our own. And that seems to be in the ascendancy.
Given the problems in getting to this stage, John, this idea of being outside the single market and outside the customs union, is that realistic?
It's realistic if that's what the UK government says it really wants. The question is, what are we going to get instead? I mean, if we're outside the customs union, outside the single market, but still trying to keep tabs with European regulation, means you're either going to have to keep daily contact with them on that basis, or you're going to have to somehow set up a whole new system to follow it. Never mind the fact that you're looking to not sign one new trade deal, but you're looking to sign 50 trade deals, because of course it's 50 trade deals with other countries that we're walking away from in the European Union.
David, give us an idea in layman terms what a UK trade deal might look like.
Well, I think I just need to address a kind of common misconception. When you have a trade deal with another country, you don't have to mirror their regulations exactly. Canada is free to set its own regulations. And it's only an EU idea that you have to copy exactly the regulations. Look, we start from a period of total, zero tariffs on goods, and we start from an area of total alignment. So a trade deal with the EU would be a very comprehensive trade deal. It would be one that would include services, which is something that the Canada deal lacks. So it would be a kind of a Canada plus deal.
You're not accepting that at all, John?
No, I mean, the idea that the trade deal just happens automatically. I mean, the whole point about the system we've got within the EU is it's one that we helped build over 43 years through Leon, Britain and others. Yes, we do. We do, and we're walking away from it. And that's my point, is if you've got 20, it's not just one country, it's 27 other countries, all of whom we're closely intertwined with because they are our nearest and closest neighbours. Now, if you separate yourself from them, yes, you will have a trade deal in the future, but it's not the same as the current arrangement we have now because we're in it, building it, and we're setting the regulations ourselves. So, of course, it'll happen. And let's pray it has services in it, because if it doesn't, that's the British economy in real trouble. But to say it's simply going to happen automatically when we're now, 18 months away, less than that, from the date we say we're going to leave, and we've only just started to talk about what it might look like. And I don't buy the argument, frankly, that Michael Gove or Boris Johnson or anybody else has won out in this. I think we don't really know yet what people want.
But we already have a trade deal. Who are the only people that are going to be trying to ruin that trade deal? Who's that going to be? It's not going to be the British government.
No one's trying to ruin it. We are taking ourselves out of it. We signed an international treaty with these other countries, and we are asking, through the Article 50 process, to end that international agreement. So inevitably, whatever happens, however great it may or may not be, it is going to be different from the situation we have at the moment. not least because we are part of the court and part of the regulatory process ourselves.
David, how strong is the UK's bargaining position then? How long might these negotiations last, do you think?
Well, the UK's bargaining position is very strong, and the problem with the worldview that John espouses, and I don't blame him for this because this is what has been pumped out by the Remain campaign. The idea that's coming out of those, that kind of idea is that Britain is stuck in the kind of 1970s style sick man of Europe, and whereas in reality, look, Britain is the 5th largest economy in the world, and we have the leading financial centre in the world in London. Britain is a sleeping giant when it comes to these kind of things, and the British, we don't really see that, but the rest of the world see that. And the Prime Minister of Australia, Malcolm Turnbull, said that we want a speedy trade deal with the UK. America wants a trade deal with us. New Zealand wants a trade deal with us. We need to see Britain as the rest of the world sees Britain, which is a sleeping giant. We are a global titan. We have the 5th largest economy in the world. We have recordly low unemployment, and we need to grasp this opportunity, and I can see why people like John want to hug close to the EU and have these kind of regulatory alignment, but we need to strike ourselves free.
John, a sleeping giant with other nations lining up to trade with us.
I'm not the one harking back to the 1970s. The 1970s is where we were before we joined the European community. So I'm not the one trying to take us backwards. The difference is that the world has changed beyond all recognition from when we came in, so we can't go back to the Britain that the people who think we can get universal sovereignty over everything in the world and nothing in terms of negotiation. It doesn't exist. So yes, of course we can do it. I'm not talking the country down, but to pretend that in less than 2 years we can set up a system that has taken 40 years to create and there's not going to be bumps along the road, and to pretend that that's made easier by the fact that now, 18 months after we took this decision, we still haven't decided within the British cabinet what view we want, never mind across the country.
And there we must leave it. Thank you both for joining us in Scotland tonight.
Pleasure.